Whoa, now listen up, man. Listen up. Peace, and blessings. Listen, we got royalty in the building. You know what I'm saying? When you speak, when you speak this man name, make sure you say it in all caps. This is an all cap situation. When you talk about New Orleans, Mount Rushmore's, make sure you put his name on the list. He been on the radio my whole life. My whole life. I'm not trying to age you. I'm just giving you your flowers right now. Literally, he's the sound of the city. All you gotta do, all this man has to do is just say 3 words. It's your boy. You already know. You know the rest. You, you gotta say nothing else after that. Because he our boy. You know that. Listen, my biggest regret in life is I never got on the 9 o'clock props. I wanted to tell everybody where I was calling from, Wayne. Listen, it was 3 people ahead of me. I fell asleep. I ain't been.
You'd probably sneak the phone underneath the covers at our house.
Look,
the encore.
I ain't been asleep since. This man is the face. This man needs his face on the side of the iHeart Radio building. He's a radio star. He's a TV star. He's currently the public address announcer at the Smoothie King Center for the Pelicans home games. This man's voice has been on NBA 2K.
Yes,
we got Wild Wayne in the building.
It just dropped too. The NBA 2K24.
I'm playing it right now.
Give away a copy of it on the show, a PS4 copy.
Come on, man.
We're gonna do that. You figure out how we give it away.
My God. All right, cool. We gonna do that. All right, before we get into that, let me get this read off, and then I got a surprise for you. I want to see if you remember this guy.
Okay.
All right. This podcast is sponsored by the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Booker Media, located at 918 Porter Street by the Superdome. Give them a call, 504-523-5413. If you're somebody you know has been involved in an accident, be sure to tell them we sent you. If y'all out there at Beyonce concert, be safe. Y'all might need them because you know how the streets is right now. But listen, that ain't even important. I need to know if you know this guy.
To me, the best chemistry, the best artist, the best producer in the world. I don't think nothing can fade it.
Man, Fresh ain't no joke. I mean, they got people jacking him from everywhere.
For sure. And, you know, we ain't giving our flavor. Let them get it how they live. Do their own thing. Cause we work hard to build this sound. And with the rappers and the flossing and all the balling we talk about, that's our thing. We created that and we're going to run with that. But it's going to...
Man.
My mic ripping.
No, it's all good. I think that was the. I don't know where I ripped that from, but listen.
That's from Fat and all of that.
No, I remember that. I just don't remember what the website was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was an interview that we did at the end of Esplanade. It's like one of the wharfs on the river, and we did it. It was right before. This is crazy. 400 Degrees dropped.
That's crazy.
By Juvenile. If you listen to the whole interview when I was talking to Juvenile, we're talking about the new project that was about to drop, which was crazy. I think BG might have been somewhere on that interview. Wayne.
BG definitely there.
Cadillac or somebody, because Cadillac, I think, was running with him around that time. Baby Slim. Yeah.
I can't find the whole version of the interview, but like I found clips. So if you know I can find the whole thing, let me know. BG was there. I could confirm that. I got another version. Listen, and you don't know this, but I generally start whatever show I'm gonna do with either that clip or this clip.
Infinity, huh?
Ain't no ending with this here. When the party over, we should be about 60 years old,
right?
About 100 million drunk, and chilling with our children.
Hey, but tell him, man, this
start every show with that.
Hey, and what makes you start the show with that? Like, it's just because it's genuinely New Orleans and people didn't know the story before the story?
Man, so, well, for one, the crazy thing is, right, like, people talk New Orleans, Mount Rushmores all the time, and they mention rappers, but, like, if there's no you, I don't know if we get the authentication of all of that stuff. Like, you seamlessly made a way to integrate yourself into like the music scene, and they accepted you, right? They felt comfortable talking to you. You felt, in my opinion, right, like it was like you was one of my uncles, and you just was bringing your partners over just on the TV, and we was just talking. And for me, like, I don't know. I think a lot of, you know, as you know, New Orleans is like different now. It's not the same. Like the recipes ain't the same. And I just really like to give whatever made me interested in whatever I was interested in at the time. Like I want to keep it at the forefront of things. Like I think that's important. So that's why I started.
Yeah, man. You know, Fat was an awesome platform. We were so far ahead of the game with Fat and all of that. Like, you know, before there was 106 in Park, before there was all of these MTV shows that were hip hop or urban center, because MTV was already popping or whatever.
Right.
BET, I think, only had maybe In the Basement at that particular time with Joe Cleese. But we were getting all kind of national awards, and it was a beautiful time because we were documenting like history, like in the formative stages. Like, you know, there was so many labels in New Orleans, but we were able to get all of these superstars right here. We were like a LA or an Atlanta or a New York. Like, we didn't have to go out and get artists. They were dying to get here so they could be in the likes of a Cash Money or a No Limit or Take Four or Big Boy at the time. You know, we had so many superstars here. They might have been indie, but they would get like major money. So we were in the middle of all of that. And then obviously with all the stuff going on with radio during that time, right, we were the first to play bounce music on the radio, the first to play the Mysticals and the Hot Boys and the Bee Gees and, you know, Miss T's and all of these other artists. It was crazy, man. Crazy in New Orleans.
I always wanted to ask you, how did you become the host of that show? Like, what was the, like, what happened there?
Like for Fat or
yeah, for Fat.
So radio was already pumping. I was number one in the city, hands down. I started with a guy named Davey D, who's now in California. He was an immensely good talent in New Orleans. Like, he was raw. He was energy. He was a DJ. He was a white guy, but everybody thought he was black, and I was black. I was white at first, which is kind of crazy because I was a college dude. But we had the radio on fire, you know what I'm saying, in a major way. And then he peeled, went to Cali. I stayed. And my man Mike Fox came. He was the next guy that I worked with. Actually, before Mike Fox came, I worked with Uptown Angela. We were like a little duo. But that didn't work out too good. That was it was oil and water because I was pretty brash at that particular time. And then Mike Fox came in, and he works at BLS in New York now. But nonetheless, then it was just me. But man, it was so much energy. I was doing shows. I was doing all the artists, you know, before Cash Money and No Limit Blue. It was nothing for me to do like a party or a show with Miss T or Kilo or Cheeky Black or Partners in Crime and have 500 people come. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
600 people come, 700 people come. We did like all the big venues, you know, Rockefeller and Planet Hollywood and Whispers, and we were packing all of these spots out. So my finger was on the pulse of everything. I tell you a really crazy story. I did a DJ competition at Whispers. This is a long time ago. But my winner was actually DJ Khaled.
Wow.
Before he left, you know, and went to Miami. He mentions it in his book briefly. He don't give all the details, but he went head to head with DJ HC, who was Bust Down's DJ, Howard Collins.
Okay.
He beat HC and he took the bag, went to Miami, linked up with Terror Squad, and the rest is kind of history. But I did all of these shows and college parties, so it was kind of a natural transition to do TV when the opportunity arose. And they were like, yo, you want to host this show? And I'm like, give me the mic. Let's get it, you know? And Consuela was my co-host at that time.
Consuela, yo.
Yeah. Cute cutie Consuela. We did our inaugural show, our first show over at BBH Leather Goods on Magazine Street. Kurt Pellerin spot. But nonetheless, Consuela is out there in Cali now.
Yep.
But ironically, the show really was way ahead of we were ahead of the game. We were so far ahead of the game. I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. I do like really good interviews. I was always cognizant of making sure we could put the artist in a big picture, but also be informative about like kind of humanizing them, because a lot of people don't know the backstory of a lot of these artists, or their struggle, or how they living, or what the music means, or whatever. And also being informative as an advertising piece, because you want people to know, okay, you got an album coming, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. And shit, we was just making magic, man. We was making so much magic at that particular time. Like I'm gonna digitize the copies that I have from VHS pretty soon.
Okay.
There are some unknown shows, or ones that people have not populated or circulated on YouTube or social media. I have some of those.
Man, we need that. We need that, man. We need that. I'm telling you. Listen, it's so funny. It's so funny you talk about like humanizing and putting the artist in a light. I fully believe you're one of the best interviewers like out there. Like I'm talking about anywhere. I listen to even still to this day, right? Like I listen to you, like you make people feel comfortable. You get information like somebody else may not necessarily get, because you're not coming at it like a journalist. You coming at it like you're not trying to be messy with it. You just getting the information. I want to, find out about you. I want to do my research. I'm gonna do my research on you, and we just gonna talk about it. But before you answer that, you said something that I think is very important, and I gotta give a shout out to Will Guillory on this. Shout out to Will. I read a quote from you. You said, "I started radio in 1991, and I've been number one ever since."
Facts.
That's crazy.
Facts.
Man.
And look, I'm probably I span all of the age demographics. I'm in an interesting situation, having done radio for such a long period of time, and have been lucky enough to remain relevant. You know what I'm saying? But my success is not just based upon radio. Like my success is based upon the fact that I'm a tangible element, right? So people see me, and I will have long conversations with strangers. Because people have so many questions, you want to leave people hanging. I've seen some artists that really get kind of stank, you know what I'm saying, with their fans. But
right.
I'm approachable. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you, especially if you're an artist and you're trying to figure out what's next. The game is really weird now, a little different. But
yeah.
That and community have been my basis for success. Like doing community work, like with youth, or being available when people have things that need a face or a voice per se. Like that has kept me more so number one than anything else.
You just said something I wanted to ask you anyway. I feel like you have your eyes on my notes. I don't know. You've been on the radio so long, you probably seen and heard it all anyway. How do you stay relevant after 32 years?
Yeah, I started in 91, so that makes it 32. Yeah.
32 years of being number one. How do you stay relevant after all that time?
So I think the key to it is being very intentional about recreating yourself periodically. In order to do that, you have to recreate yourself every so often, and it has to make sense. So, like, there was a period when I was at every party. I was the party guy. There was a time when I was the TV guy. There was a time when I was really, really focused on the community aspect. There was a time when I became more doing my talk shows and becoming a little more engaged with the political scene and those different things, because it was an important time post Katrina to be able to share that information with the public and have a recognizable and trusted voice that could talk. It was the recovery, Wayne. The after Katrina part. I started doing podcast early on, like about, I guess maybe 4 years ago. It was a little bit before the curve. I do like some farming stuff. I do like some cooking. Like it's you just gotta keep like kind of morphing with the times and figure out how to reinvent yourself. And I've had like the businesses where I was the business Wayne, or the 9 o'clock props Wayne, or whatever. You have to continue to keep doing those things. And the other thing is, so I got 3 kids. So my daughter's 14, my son is 19, and then my oldest is 28. And they all listen to very different types of music. And they all have very different things that they do in terms of their socialization, let's say. So it's important for me to kind of pay attention to the things that they like, because they mirror a lot of people that are in my listening audience. So
Gotcha.
Those are things that you have to kind of be cognizant of to stay relevant. And, I've had a great run. I'm still rolling like #1. So that's an awesome feeling. But I know at some point there'll be another talent, whether it's somebody we groom or somebody that's on the come up that will do what I do. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of inevitable. But hey, I'm just rolling with it,
I feel that. Let me ask you this. You mentioned your kids. I want to know from their perspective, but I'm also asking you this. Do they know how legendary you are? And do you understand how legendary you are?
I do, but I try to be humble,
I don't want that Wayne. I don't want that Wayne.
So I know that I was very instrumental in forming a piece of New Orleans culture, right? I was the maestro, and it birthed a lot of talent. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, but just how people did things, and how people moved, and how people partied, and all of those different kind of things. And also, I think it was good to have someone that kind of looked like them, for like the kids or the younger people that were my listeners. Like, yo, like this dude he's in touch with the things in the street, but he also is well spoken. Like that was kind of not normal, because people would always say, well, what city are you from? I'm from 7-1. What are you talking about? It's okay to speak well. It's okay to have a good time party and hang out, get wild with it. But, I think I figured out a way to make it cool, to be balanced, right?
Absolutely.
And I was just so instrumental in so many artists, from their early stages, their developmental stages. So I do know how important I've been to the culture. My kids, on the other hand, I think my oldest son maybe knows. My middle son, he's just very nonchalant about everything. My daughter knows too. And people come up to them in the streets all the time and are like, you know how important your dad is? So it's always, it's a good feeling, you know what I'm saying? Yes. And like I said, I know they kind of know.
That's all right. Listen, play this back for them. We gonna make sure you understand. They understand what's going on. I want to give you your flowers a little bit more though, man. Listen, every time I've spoken to you, whether it be Twitter, DM, or in public, you've always been personable. You've always like given me advice. You've always like whatever. Well, you probably don't even remember this, but like just anytime I've talked to you and I asked you a question, you've always been like, yeah, man, here, or like do it this way. And it's crazy. Everybody who I talk to about you, they say the same thing. What is that about? How did you get there?
I think I just don't take anything for granted. And I also know my steps are guided. It's just level stuff, because I think my collective ideas, my collective experiences, whether they be good or bad, they only happen because they were supposed to happen to me, so I could share that information with somebody else. I'm a firm believer that I'm a conduit. Because I've talked to some people 20 years later, and they're like, this conversation you had with me, how it changed my life, or, you were absolutely right about X, Y, and Z. And sometimes I don't even remember these conversations. So, and it makes me know that I'm just being used as a conduit of information to people to help them. Like, so I don't think you said, well, how did it happen? I don't know. I didn't make it happen. And I could, sometimes it's going to be really weird, but I can almost see myself talking to someone else, almost like an out of body
experience.
where I know that I'm telling them some things that are important, like me talking to you. Very weird. But I just know I had no intention of talking to X person, but I know I'm dropping some gems on them that will help them. It just happens. And I'm glad it did happen. I'm glad it did happen and continues to happen, that I'm able to help people like that. I don't know. It just is.
I didn't think that was weird at all. Actually, I feel like I do that myself. Like it's hard to explain because it sounds like you saying like some weird shit, but like I really understand what you meant when you said that.
Yeah. And it's kind of, you just kind of know. It's just like I do a lot of commercial production. You know, a lot of production for commercials, whether it be video or audio, and like I will know before I start how it's going to sound when it's done. Like these are just things that are innate in me. And I like I said, I didn't even want to do radio.
I know. Listen,
I know I'm being used. I wanted to be a doctor. I went to Xavier University. I wanted to be a doctor. I was biology pre-med. I knew I was going to be a doctor.
That's a crazy story. And again, shout out to Will Guillory, because that's one thing I learned about you that I did not know. I didn't know that you went to Xavier, and I didn't know you. I mean, I knew you went to Xavier, but I didn't know you were trying to be, a doctor. And for the people who didn't hear, like, can you just go into detail a little bit?
So I went to Holy Cross in the 9th Ward, across the canal, because I was a problem child. This is a school that ended up taking me. My pops went to St. Aug. So it was like, yeah, you going to St. Aug, but I was such a terrible, bad problem child. Ended up going to Holy Cross because they were only time. I breezed through Holy Cross, but I started doing these summer programs at Xavier, just as supplemental work, like BioStar, ChemStar, SOAR, which was stress on analytical reasoning. And I really was big into the sciences. I wanted to go into veterinary medicine, and that's what I wanted to go ahead and do my undergrad, get my medical degree. Went to Xavier, started doing my college courses and what have you, but then I lost my scholarship. I went to Xavier on academic scholarship, but I lost my scholarship because going from an all boys white school,
I understand,
white school, to an all black college with the most beautiful women in the world, and I was partying. I was earning my title as Wild Wayne. Like it was just too much. I was having too good of a time, and I lost my scholarship. I lost my scholarship. I had an apartment. I was doing this, that, and the other. So I wanted to stay going to school. I wanted to continue my education, but my pops was like, well, you lost your scholarship. Well, too bad for you, because I'm not paying it. So it made me have to go back to the drawing board, decide if I wanted to stay in school, and I did. And I was working at the Times-Picayune at that time, which was right down the street from Xavier. And then I started working at, this is crazy, it was called Alfalfa Video, which later became Blockbuster Video.
I remember.
So that was my second job. But then I still didn't have enough to pay for my apartment and school and my hoopty. So I got a third job, which was at the radio station. And my job was to answer the phones. Davey D was the night guy, and I was his show producer. My job was Q93. What would you like to hear? And I did that for a couple of days, and I was bored to death. And I ended up jumping on the show with Davey. We clicked. I was the college hot boy. He was the head DJ, and he was hot in the streets. We came together. And the rest is kind of just his history.
Listen, I remember Davey D had a fire theme song. I remember that.
It's Davey D on.
Yeah. Davey D had a fire. He had a fire theme song. I feel like the crazy part about your whole story is, man, obviously you have the personality and you have a voice for radio. I feel like you were talking about guided steps. It really seems like radio chose you and you
It did.
didn't choose it at all.
I didn't even listen to the radio. Like I literally at that time, B97 was kind of a bigger station at that time.
Mm-hmm.
293 was more of a CHR format, like right before I got in. They were just kind of transitioning to doing urban. Uh, FM 98 was kind of the Q93 of that time period. You know what I'm saying? Before they went more adult. And they went more adult when we bought them because our company, which was Clear Channel, um, it was kind of like, well, if you can't beat them, buy them, and that's what they did. That's how we got FM 98 under the same roof. But I never listened to radio. Like for me, I was on a very diversified musical palette, right? So I'm on NWA to Tribe Called Quest. I'm Daisy Age to Ice T.
Mm,
I'm like, you know, all of these different music plus the Terrence Trent D'Arby's of the time and
okay.
Lucid. But I also like Elton John and I like Earth, Wind and Fire, like all of these different musical tastes. But I wasn't listening to the radio for it. I was listening to album cuts or whatever. That was kind of like my thing. So that statement, radio chose me, is probably more true than you know.
Listen, I want to go back to something you said about you. I feel like we live the same life. Coming from an all boy, I went to St. Up. So coming from an all boy school and then going to a school with, you know what I'm saying, and then losing the scholarship because you like, oh my god, like we live the same life. So I totally listen. No judgment. I get you. I get you there. Is there? I know you weren't listening to the radio per se, but was there a media person or a personality you kind of looked up to when you started to get into this?
I did. It's a really weird one.
Okay.
And he just passed away. It's gonna sound odd, but the person that I watched and I was like, this guy has been doing this for a long period of time. He's always upbeat, up tempo. Ladies love him. It was Bob Barker
What?
from The Price is Right.
Are you serious? Wow, I'd have never guessed that.
My grandmother, you know, I blew out my knee playing ball. I played a lot of basketball. But I blew out my knee playing ball, so I used to have to go by my grams because I couldn't walk, you know what I'm saying, while I was rehabbing. So she would look out for me. But every single day she would watch The Price is Right. And I started watching it. And I think like Bob Barker had like these sex scandals or something at this time, or some kind of scandals. And he still would come out and be like he would have some witty stuff he would say. He was always well kept, you know what I'm saying? His interaction with the public was always really dope. That would probably be the only person that I kind of looked at as being someone that I modeled just my early kind of ideologies about. But other than that, nobody else really, like I said, I didn't listen to a whole lot of radio. There was no other like prominent talents that I was like, man, I could model myself after this person. Davey D was probably one of my first persons that I kind of watched, and I was already in the game. You know what I'm saying? I was just getting started. Also, I picked up from Mike Fox because he had another skill set. Like he was a producer on the low. He was a Army brat, and plus he was very organized and meticulous about getting things together. He was an audiophile, so sound was important. He was a good businessman. Whereas Davey was a raw talent. He was wilding out. He was making it happen. But I got little pieces from each one of those. And then I injected myself into it and had some kind of, I guess, guardrails with those two personalities to figure out which way I was going to go.
I got you. Okay. Man, rest in peace, Bob Barker, man. We, you know, Price is Right was dope. Like you, I was also by my grandmother watching The Price is Right. So
that and the stories. You had to watch the stories.
man, the Young and the Restless. Listen,
Uh,
I don't know how Victor Newman's still doing this.
I was like, can we change the channel? No.
Nah, you can't touch them stories, man. The Bold and the Beautiful, like nah, you gotta let that. You gotta just let that go. Shout out to the grandmas, man. We miss the old school grandmas.
What was it? As the World Turns or something.
As the World Turns. That was also one. Do you okay? So the whole time you've been at Q93, did you feel a pull or did you feel a need to go to a larger market at any point? And what made you stay?
So, especially around the time when Cash Money and No Limit were blowing up, and I had the radio on fire and I had the video show was doing great. Like I did have offers in other markets in the South. But at that particular time, the cost of living was so low here, like it would have kind of been lateral moves for me. So I probably would have been in a bigger market, grossing more, but netting less.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important for me because I just had a son and, you know, I'm New Orleans down. So it wasn't enough of a pull for me to move to another city. And I think at that particular time, I felt like I'm a big fish in a small pond. So I'm the king.
Right.
But later, I had some opportunities post Katrina because things were so, you know, up in the air. And but I was doing other things. I wasn't doing radio for a minute because the city was crushed. But I was doing these shows in Houston. I was doing stuff in Dallas. I was doing some things in Atlanta, being production, promoting shows. I had a daiquiri shop around that time. So
Wow.
the pull where Nice Guys is now, I had it when it's Daiquiri Island.
And,
oh,
that was you?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
With the little Jeep on the thing.
Yeah.
And then
that was you. Did you put the Jeep there?
No. We bought the business and then we put our own spin on it.
Okay.
And then I had another business before that, but I think. Okay, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about being a big fish in a small pond.
Oh yeah, and then I just had all these other businesses that were kind of popping, so it didn't make sense for me to leave at that time. But now things have changed because the cost of living is terrible here now.
It's the worst.
But I was able to do a whole lot of things, man. I made a whole lot of money doing shows and having various businesses, and then I have a nonprofit. I do stuff with the youth. So I did have opportunities to go, but I don't think they were the right opportunities for me.
I feel that. Especially as a New Orleanian, I think you always feel the pull, and then like I can speak for me, like I've left, and for some way, and I always seem to come back. I don't know what that is. It's like
it's the city. It's the city. It's just as bad as things get sometimes, we still end up trying to find silver linings, or sometimes it's the city you love that don't love you back. But I don't know. It is what it is. I'm gonna stay for a while.
I feel you. I feel that. Listen, I remember a time. I can't remember the year, but I remember a time. Anytime you listen to the radio after 11 p.m., explicit music would play. Y'all would play whole albums. Like y'all would play whatever new album dropped at the time. All I had to do was get my stereo ready with my tape, and I could record the whole thing and I could dub it. What's the biggest change for you from radio when you started to now?
I think national programming is the biggest change from then to now. And national programming is like you have these national programming people whether it be iHeart or Cumulus or CBS Radio or whatever it is that choose these songs to play, right? They're getting pushed by the record labels or whatever. So back then in those days, you didn't really have national programming. So we played a lot of local music. We played a lot. We played more local music than anywhere in the country. People talk about Atlanta. When you go to Atlanta, you hear all their artists. Like, we was doing this way before them. But things changed. And a lot of those radio stations in other markets are independently owned. So they can play more of what they want, right? Whereas the bigger companies, and iHeart is one of the biggest in the world, like, we have these national programmers. So you could drive from, let's say, Dallas to Atlanta, and you're going to hear the same songs on the radio.
Right.
You're going to hear the same Beyoncés. You're going to hear the same Jay-Z's. You're going to hear the same Migos. You're going to hear the same Cardi B's. You're going to hear the same Megans. You're going to hear the same Nicki's. It's the way of the world now. I don't know if I like that as much as the old days, because I thought it was, we wouldn't have had, the South wouldn't have had a chance to come up if national programming was in place then. During that period, that's how we were able to get on, because we had big hometown love in our cities,
Right.
Like,
right.
I think, like, just for example, like, I think My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me by the Ghetto Boys, right?
Right.
I think that song went platinum just in Texas, right? Because they supported their own people. Just like, here, think about, like, Where They At by T.T. Tucker and by DJ Jimmy. Like, they literally probably went gold from just Louisiana people.
Right.
Right. Think about Nelly, just from St. Louis people. Tony Draper and them in the Memphis crew, the 8 Balls and MJGs and all of them. Just from their area, they went gold or platinum, whatever it was. But it was because of all the support. So that is a big change. Then they did. It's not as much now, but there's other platforms now, so it's a little bit different.
So you brought up an interesting point, and I kind of want to elaborate on that too, because I feel like, for me as a music listener, I don't like streaming. I feel like I miss when an artist would be from St. Louis, and you would bring me to St. Louis, and St. Louis didn't sound like New Orleans. It didn't sound like New York. It didn't sound like California. How do you feel about streaming, I guess, in this new form of media?
Well, I think it's kind of a disservice for artists, to be honest. Like, this is just my opinion, but just like these writers and actors just went on strike because of how low the wages were for what they were doing, and plus to protect themselves from AI.
Right.
Like, I think the same thing is going to happen from streaming, because artists are not making money. You get a million streams to get a $12 check. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that it's good for the artist. It's good for whoever owns the streaming platform.
Right.
You have, I think they call it genome. So, like, one song will play, and then it'll play songs that are similar or have similar listenership or whatever. I don't want to hear the same kind of songs, like, back to back to back to back. I don't want to hear. I want to hear a variety. Like, I want to hear some different type stuff. I think streaming kind of takes that away, because it pairs like songs to play with like songs. So that's cool, I guess, but it's not for me. It's not for me. Maybe it is, but I just think streaming is not all it's cracked up to be.
Do you like any of the new music? Like, like the stuff that's like, I'm asking this question as a person who, when I say new music, right, I mean, third verses don't exist anymore. Songs are like a minute, 15 seconds. Like, do you even enjoy the new stuff?
I like the Kendrick Lamars. I like the J. Cole's. I like Doja Cat. I know that's a different kind of thing, but she
nice. She nice.
to her very early before a lot of people got on board with her whole piece. I still am a Wayne fan. You know, some of the artists are cool, some not so much. I still like, some of our New Orleanians, like Ombre Perkins.
She nice.
Yeah, and I broke her many years ago. She's really good. So some artists, yes, some I think are just very cookie cutter.
Right.
Unfortunately.
So let me ask you this, because I really want to get into this next section, but like I gotta ask you this. What is one thing, it could be many things, but something you miss about the old New Orleans?
Musically? Or just
musically, socially, whatever.
People have talked about this ad nauseum on these different kind of conversations, but I think the New Orleans slang and the way we say things, I think was our calling card. And I think once many of the artists started to try and sound like a national sound, it kind of took away from our uniqueness. So when we started trying to sound like Drake, or if we were trying to sound like Dirk, or if we were trying to sound like something else, like I think we lost our original edge. Like that's why the Hot Boys were so huge, because they were saying slangs and things like nobody else was saying. We were moving a little bit different from anybody else. So like I miss the fact that we've tried to kind of just emulate others' sound so we could get on the national spotlight, where I think it's kind of the opposite, where if you continue to stay uniquely New Orleans, the platform comes to you instead of you going to it.
I agree. Shout out to Ombre too. Ombre is dope. Now every time I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say every time. I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I was gonna go a little bit more in detail here. Every time like I told you, every time I turn on the TV, you were talking to BG, Wayne, Baby P, Silk, C Murder, whoever, right? What was it like being at the forefront of the rise of both of those camps?
It was very interesting, because although there was a rivalry, there was a rivalry.
Right.
And they kind of always shrugged it off, but there was a rivalry. There really was a rivalry.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see it happening, and I think sometimes we didn't even understand the greatness of what was happening at the time, because we were in the moment. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if we knew that P was gonna be as big as he was. I don't know if we knew that Baby was gonna be as big as he was. Like this was early on. Like I was right there in all of this. I was in the belly of the beast for all of this stuff that was happening. I knew Mystical and Juvenile long before they with their labels, and Fiend and Mac. Juvenile, like I said, I used to book all of these artists, you know what I'm saying? Skullduggery and Mr. Magic. Like these were like my people, you know what I'm saying? So, and then being a promoter, it just, these were just my people. It was interesting, like I said, to see it happening, but I don't think I really knew the scope of how big it was gonna be until they started getting them checks, and I was like, they got something else happening here. You got, how much did you sign this deal for? This when I knew one time P said, I'm gonna bring you some promotional items. I said, all right. Well, when I get off, you know what I'm saying, just swing by, you could bring me some promotional items. They used to have the box of 30 CDs that were the promotional boxes of singles usually.
Right.
With the A and the B side. 30 is in the box. P brought me 500. P brought me so many promotional No Limit shirts. When I put them in the back of my Jeep, I couldn't see through my mirror. Double disc. I had West Coast Bad Boys. I had all of this stuff. It was just crazy. That's when I knew something big was happening. When I was rocking with Baby and them, and they pulling up in Hummers and this and that, all these Benzes. Because at first all they had was the little blue station wagon Benz with the white leather interior.
Right.
That's why I was like, wow, this is bigger than Take 4. This is bigger than Big Boy. And it happened, it happened. That's when we kind of saw that it was some next level stuff. And then God rest his soul, Bobby Marchand. Like, people don't understand how pivotal he was to Cash Money's success. Like, he was the wizard behind the screen. He made them from just a group of guys rapping into a business, right? He was the first one to book them for all of these shows. It was like the gangster corridor. Wherever they had a lot of gang activity, that's where he was booking them. So it might have been Phoenix or St. Louis or Chicago, Detroit, all of those areas. And he was putting them there long before they had the big money and had the big appearances on BET, MTV, and all of that. So I don't think I knew how big it was going to be, but it sure showed itself.
Man, you was the only person who could literally get in between both. Like, you flew, like, it was just like a seamless transition between both, camps.
So I had the first tank, the tank charm, right?
Wow.
And this was the flat plate goal at that time. This is long before people started bezeling them out and getting them all jeweled up. This is the very first one. I was the first DJ in the country to get a tank. But then, it created a rift between me and Baby and them, too, because I was already rocking with them and I was rocking with P. So I was told Baby, I was like, well, why don't I just wear the $sign, too? That didn't go over so well. That didn't go well. But anywho's,
so
I made it work.
I mean, shit, you was the only person who did it. And it's funny, speaking of both of those guys, I was just listening to Baby on 85 South podcast a couple weeks ago, and this is the first time I've ever heard him speak really kind of glowingly about P. He said, I looked up to P, and I want, and I really understood everything he did and was doing, but I wanted to outdo him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just funny seeing him acknowledge that after all this time, because it's always been just silent. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's nothing. It ain't nothing, but it's something.
They were very, very in tune with what each other were doing. Don't ever get it twisted. He might have just publicly acknowledged it, but there was a healthy rivalry there, period. The only thing I always have been a little disappointed about was two things with those two camps. One, that they never did any collaborative work. That literally is a break the internet moment if that would have happened. You know what I'm saying? They did a lot of things to make sure it never happened. I know there was one point, and this was very close to happening, where they were going to do a BG and Soulja Slim project. Slim got killed, obviously, so that never happened. But, they were running real strong at one time.
Yeah.
But it never happened. But the other part that I was always somewhat disappointed with those two labels was that they never had offices here in New Orleans after they blew up. And I think it could have been important to help push the culture along, push the music business side along. But, P went to Baton Rouge and Baby and them went to Miami. You know what I'm saying? They never really had offices here where people could get A&R work, or people could learn the intricacies of how a record company operates, or hire people to do videography from here. Although they use some, I just really wish they, one or both, would have had offices or satellite offices here in New Orleans to help push the business of music along.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think they both chose to not be here?
A couple of reasons. I think like we don't get enough of the star power here. Well, we kind of do now. But at that particular time, for what they were doing, people were just transient passing through in terms of artists or business when it comes to hip hop. Also, I don't think that they ever were given their just due by the powers that be in the city. Like, I really believe the fact that they did it without any help from the power brokers here. I think that they kind of felt slighted a little bit. In other markets, like they really championed like those guys. Like I remember going to Falcons games back in the G, and they would have like Outkast performing at halftime, or whoever was the hot flavor at the time, JD and them or whatever performing. Like we never had any New Orleans artists performing at our football games until recent times. You know what I'm saying? We never had like let's proclaim this Cash Money Day in New Orleans like back then. There was never like that love that you would think that they would have gotten after really being one of the ambassadors for the city globally.
Right. I mean, technically, they still haven't gotten that Cash Money Day. They still haven't gotten that or that No Limit Day. And if I gotta hear Stand Up or Get Crunk one more time at the Superdome, when you have all of this New Orleans,
it's a very odd song to be.
Bro, we don't get crunk. Like,
well, I mean, I think the odd part of it is that it's from our rival team. You know, it's from an artist from Atlanta. And I had heard a story somewhere a while ago how it happened, and I think it happened by accident, but I don't know.
They need to fix it. They need to fix it expeditiously. It's crazy because I've been talking. Well, I won't get into the Pelicans, but I've been on their ass for a while now. Just about. I'm so happy they at least started tapping into local talent as far as like music and local like designers. Like they brought Cohen to paint some things. They tapped in with Jacques Pierre. They tapped into just different people. And I've been like, man, if you could see my angry tweets to the Pelicans, it's like, come on, man. Like you got everything you need right here. You don't need to go out. I think my final straw was, I don't remember who it was, but they brought somebody and it was an artist from New York. This guy played piano and he was beating on drums. And I'm like, yo, you literally could have walked to the French Quarter and you could have got anybody to do that. But
I think I won't say start with me, but I was probably at the heart of it. I think when they asked me about trying to do the PA job, and I had thought about it before, but I never did it. They wanted me to audition, and I felt kind of slighted about that in a way, because this is what I do. I was like, what do you want me? You don't want me. So
yeah.
I'll do the audition. What time I got to be there? I went and did it, but I ain't read none of the script. I did it my way, and knocked their socks off. But I think they were making a very deliberate change during that period to really start to incorporate more genuinely New Orleans elements. And if you see what they've done, and I give them feedback a lot of the times on people that I think would be great entertainment pieces. They do their own homework as well with some of the rest of the team, but having Jess was DJing for a while.
Shout out to Jess.
And Twiggity, you know what I'm saying, doing his thing. Having Pill and them performing, having Partners in Crime perform, Chopper, Juvenile. Like I was like, yo, you got to get Rod 49. Like he didn't perform. He was just in the crowd, courtside during that playoff run. You know what I'm saying? I was like, these are the things that ingratiate you with New Orleans people, right? When they can see, like you said, we don't have to go out when we got all of this talent here. So I see it as a great opportunity for the exposure of those artists, but it's also a good opportunity for artists to make some money too. You know what I'm saying? So it serves a couple of purposes. That artist also has some great content now. I performed at an NBA Pelicans game, and that's a great resume piece. You know what I'm saying, for artists to potentially get bigger and better gigs moving on down the line, and we get what we want from the Pelicans side in terms of having hometown talent. So I think it's a good thing. They play a lot of New Orleans music in the field times. It's a movement, and I still want to see even more of it happen with the Saints too.
Saints, yeah, I don't. Shout out to Jess. Shout out to Skills. Shout out to damn, I cannot think of my partner name. He'll kill me. God damn it. But anyway, shout out to them.
And Raj, shout out to Raj, man, who spins at the Saints game.
Yeah, shout out to Raj, and shout out to you, man. But let me say this: the fact that you had to audition for that, that upsets me. I ain't gonna lie to you, that upsets me.
Hey, you know what? I think some people, like the people that asked me, they were very clear on my skill set, but I don't think everybody knew exactly the scope of my work, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Because I turned them down the first time because I just didn't think I was going to be able to do the amount of time that was going to be involved. So we worked out something that made more sense after I did knock it out the park.
I mean, you right? I mean, you Wild Wayne. Like, what do you mean? I always wanted to ask you this too. If I'm not mistaken, I think you went on tour with Cash Money.
I did. I went on very early tour with Cash Money. It was I want to say maybe a 3-city run. It was Philly, New York, and Detroit, I think. Something like that. But I'll never forget the Philly show. Somebody got shot at the club before we even started. So that didn't happen. New York, ironically, we performed. I'm saying we. I was there with Fat filming everything and doing the interviews. But they performed at a club in Yonkers that was being thrown by a motorcycle crew known as the Rough Riders.
Wow.
They were not even in the music game yet. And people was like, man, be careful with those Rough Rider guys. They had a pretty crazy reputation. But then later, I think their first artist that came out, I think was Eve. Eve was like one of their first artists they came out with in DMX. And I remember Joaquin Dean, who's one of the brothers that own Rough Riders, came to New Orleans afterwards looking for me to help break their records. But yeah, that was the first tour that I went on with Cash Money, and it was it was breathtaking, I'm gonna say. Because, like, I knew all of these people, right? I knew BG, he was Doogie then, right, and Lil Wayne and Juvenile, Turk, Baby. They had Papa Roo at that particular time.
Papa Roo.
It had like Stone and Lack, UNLV, and all of these artists or whatever. So you know them from home, you seen them home, but to see people go crazy in these other markets, like, was mind blowing. Like, because you just didn't realize. I didn't realize, and probably a lot of people back at home didn't realize how big they had become outside of city limits. That was crazy. But yeah, I did go on tours. It was very interesting. And there's a fat and all of that with those shows too. I wish I could find all of them, but that was definitely one where we tailed them on that run of their tour. And then later on, DJ Slab one ended up being one of their tour DJs, and he was from our clique Wolfpack Entertainment. So we had
Shout out to Slab One, man. When did you realize? When did you know that Wayne would become Wayne? Like Lil Wayne. When did you realize that he would become the guy that we see today?
Squad Up, during that Squad Up period.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because I was always a Juvenile fan. Like you couldn't tell me nothing. You could nothing. Juvenile with the wordplay, 400 Degrees, one of my all-time favorite albums. So Juvenile was my guy, and I did a lot of shows with him or whatever. Wayne, I was peeping what he was doing, but I don't think he had enough life under his belt yet, right? So I think his topics and his material were limited. But
right.
like when the Hot Boys and when Squad Up, like it was like mixtape Wayne was like, there it is. Like, this is it. This is it. That's when I was like, yeah, Lil One is crazy on the wordplay. So I think that's kind of when I knew like things were gonna be special for Wayne.
You mentioned Juvenile. You mentioned 400 Degrees. What's a better album? 400 Degrees or Soldier Act?
400 Degrees.
Okay. All right. You answered that easily too. Like you. All right.
I just like it was no pause. So many quotables. The skits was dope. Like it was like a snapshot of New Orleans. Like it's like that's like to me one of the most rounded albums in New Orleans history. It's kind of like almost like good. What was it? Kendrick's album.
Good Kid, Mad City.
Like it's a snapshot of West Coast life, right? And it's seamless. Like it talks about all the things that a youth or a teenager or a young adult in Cali would deal with. You know what I'm saying? That's in the urban lifestyle or middle America or low income America. Like seamless.
Shout out to Juvie, man. Juvie reached out to me. Well, I kind of campaigned on him thanks to the internet, but like Juvie let me write about the 25th anniversary of 400 Degrees. And like he shouted me out and it was cool, man. So shout out to Juvie. I appreciate that, bro. One day I'm gonna interview Juvie. I'm gonna interview Juwayne. I'm counting on you.
Make it happen.
I'm saying, man, like I grew up around the corner, man. I need to holler at Juvie.
I'm gonna get with his manager and see what can happen. Just like you got with my man A. Lee.
Listen,
put it out the atmosphere and boom, here we are.
I'm just pushing buttons, man. I hollered at Levy. I was like, Levy, man. I've been knowing Levy a long time. Levy was like, I said, man, I gotta talk to Wayne, man. I got so many questions, man. He was like, I'll holler at Wayne for you. No problem.
I had just seen him like a couple of days before that, Buns and Biscuits.
Shout out to Buns and Biscuits on Banks, man. Please go frequent that place. Levy a good dude, man. But I appreciate you. We gonna holler at Juvie. Listen, I got a couple. I ain't trying to hold you forever. I got a couple more questions. We gonna get you out of here, and we got some fan questions. BG home, Doogie. Shout out to Doogie. Mac home. Do you think? I know a lot of time has passed, but do you think they can at this point have a successful music career? I know music has changed, but like, do you think they can?
That's so crazy because I talked to Mac last night.
Wow.
And I asked him if he was going to do a song with BG just last night. And he didn't say it was or it wasn't. But I think they are trying to move in that direction. But, the paint's still wet. You know what I'm saying? BG just getting home. Do I think that they can have a successful music career like post jail release? Is that kind of what?
Yeah.
I do, but success is a relative term.
Fair.
So I think it depends on what your opinion of success is. Radio success, BG maybe, only because of the machine that Cash Money is, and them being able to get it out there and probably still have some music that would be of the times and maybe a big feature or something on one of them records, a Wayne and BG song or something like that.
Right.
But the game has changed, like since they went to jail. Like to be in jail for what was it, 11 or 12 years for BG.
Yeah, I think it was 12 years.
The decade, like, you know what I'm saying? Plus, like, so there's kids that are 12 listening to rap that have never heard of you. You know, so it makes it difficult. Can it happen? It can. I think because BG just had such a legendary status, you know what I'm saying? It still does. But I don't think it'll be easy.
Yeah.
I also think, like I mentioned about success being a relative term, because he may not be commercially successful, but in terms of radio play, but internet, streaming, YouTube, I'm sure he could make big marks. Mac as well, but he falls into some of the same problems. You know what I'm saying? Having been gone off the scene for such a long period of time, it makes it a little more difficult. And the only other thing that I think is maybe a little more difficult for Mac is the fact that he ain't on No Limit no more. So he ain't got the P muscle that he might have been able to have. But I do know that Mac makes music that has such strong messages. Once again, his success will be probably characterized differently. Like, I think he will drop some gems and some knowledge on some things that'll make people think and also see truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's successful too.
If you close your eyes and listen to Mac, you literally he's Nas with a New Orleans accent.
So that was what we used to call him, like the down south Nas. Like, I had pushed for Mac to get like some label deals like back then. So I lived on Ferret Milan uptown. Mac was on General Persian, right on the other side of Claiborne. So Mac used to be at my house all the time. Like, Mac and Fiend. I was gonna start a label with them at one point. My three start were gonna be Mac, Fiend, and the Rangers. I don't know if you remember the Rangers.
I remember the Rangers, yeah.
Right. So the Rangers was like, I was like, if I can get them, that's gonna be my party music. Fiend gonna be my streets, and Mac gonna be my backpack rapper. You know what I'm saying? And that was, I had big visions. But then, like, P had got to him before me, so like, y'all gotta roll with P. P got the bread, you know. But I tried to get some different things popping for Mac. Like I said, even before that, but with labels, and that's what they were deeming him as, like the down south Nas. Ironic that you say that.
It's I got two more radio questions for you, and then I want to move to sports because I know you're a big sports guy.
Correct.
All right. So, is there anybody you've wanted to interview or you've wanted to talk to, you never had the opportunity to interview?
No, I don't think so. Like, I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, whether it be here in studio at Q93 or BET Awards or Grammys or whatever. So, I don't know if there's anybody that I never interviewed Jay-Z. I would love to pick his brain on some things, but no, I don't think there's anybody. If he would have been alive, I would love to have interviewed Michael Jackson or Bob Marley, like, just because they're iconic, you know. That's the only people that I can think of that I never had the opportunity to interview.
Okay, all right. That's I mean, you know. Last music question. I know you've probably heard more music than people have forgotten, but do you have a top 5 rapper list?
Top 5 rapper list. Yes. So Lil Wayne, and these are in no particular order, but Wayne is, Kendrick Lamar is one that I really have always liked his music. Who else would be on here? Actually, like, Ice Cube. I think a lot of people don't remember how important his music was. If you listen to the lyrics, the energy, the anger of his music, and the things that he was saying was so far ahead of the time period. Jay-Z would be on there as well. And who would my number 5 be? I don't know who my 5th one would be. That's probably my favorite 4.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a solid 4. That's a solid 4. Listen, before we get into sports, I gotta hit this DraftKings drop. Gotta let the bill collector pay some bills. 1 second.
Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over. NFL's here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. Download now and use code BOOT to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code BOOT only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours.
Shout out to the bill collector, Justin Jermaine Napoli, man. He sounds like he got a voice of radio. You might have to holler at Wayne. Maybe he can hire you there. Listen, I want to know your thoughts on the signing of Derek Carr. Like I said, I know you're a big sports guy. Me and you talk on Twitter often. I see your sports takes, so I want to know your thoughts. Because I think I know your thoughts, but go ahead.
I've said this. So my 2 teams, I have 2 NFL teams that I've always liked the Miami Dolphins. As a kid, that was my vision of perfection because they were the only team that went undefeated. So as a kid, like I want to rock with the best team ever, right? So I've always followed the Dolphins, and the Saints are my other team, obviously. But watching AFC football, I was able to see a lot of Raiders football as well. And I was not necessarily sold on Derek Carr as a Raider. I just felt like after he got injured, like he had a bad injury one year. I think it was in the playoffs because they were killing everybody that season. He got hurt late in the season, maybe even early postseason or something like that. But when he came back from that injury, he was abysmal. And then I just felt like they were just kind of middle of the road after that with him at the helm. Last year, as a Raider, he had Josh Jacobs and he had Devontae Adams. Best running back in the game and the best wide receiver in the game. And everyone's excuse was they weren't winning because of the defense. What? Wait, we're talking about the quarterback, though. How does the defense have anything to do with it? Because if you have these talented people, like you should be able to run a gun. They had Waller, too, I think, at tight end. So I just didn't think he made the best decisions in terms of his reads in a Raiders uniform. And then when we got him, we didn't do anything with him in the preseason. I think we should have made him play more reps during the preseason to get him to gel with the team.
Right.
I don't think he has a really big arm. Even though I think that first game, that pass to Rashid Shaheed was one of the longest passes of the season so far in any NFL team. But nonetheless, the jury's out to me. I like even seeing what he had done in games 1 and 2 with the Saints seemed eerily reminiscent of what we were doing with Andy Dalton last year. It was the same kind of manage the game for 3 quarters. Let's try and make a push in the 4th quarter for a win. And I think that's so super unfair to our defense, who is, I think, 10 or 11 games that they held teams under 20 points.
Right.
Longest streak in. So why are we playing this kind of, just game management thing? So I don't know if he's our answer. as much as a lot of people were so excited about, because I just don't see it. He holds the ball a little bit longer than I think he should.
He does.
And I'm not completely convinced of his reads. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work out.
You know, the interesting thing was there's a stat, the half that Jameis played and the half that Carr played. Somebody posted the stat. They literally had the same stat line, and Jameis did it in like half the time.
Well, actually, he played 3 quarters. Jameis only played 1 quarter.
Right.
Quarter in a drive or something like that. And I think it was maybe 4 or 5 yards difference in passing, but Jameis had more yards per completion and something else. I don't know. I don't know if Jameis is our answer either, though.
I don't think so. I don't know if we have our answer.
I think we have a lot of questions still.
Listen, I go back to this.
What are your thoughts on Derek Carr?
I think Derek Carr is talented. I think he could be a stopgap for whatever it is the next move. Listen, hindsight is 2020. And it's not good to live in the past, but I always go back to this. Pat Mahomes was right there.
Yeah.
He was right there. He was the pick before. I don't even remember who we picked, but he was the pick before. And
yeah, moved up, huh?
Yeah, Kansas City. So I think the story goes he ends up calling Andy Reid. Kansas City reached out to him, and he was like, I think the Saints Sean had heavy interest in him, and it was like, hey, if y'all don't pick me, the Saints are gonna take me. And the
rest is history.
The rest is history. Listen,
I don't know about Derek Carr, man. I wish him the best. I hope he fits for us, but I just don't see it at this point. And it's very early. We don't have a big sample size on the games that he's played, but I think it'll be hard to find out, especially with this terrible offensive line. Like if Jameis is out there this week, he's gonna get hurt. Like we're gonna be down to Luton. Like that offensive line is gonna get somebody killed.
That was literally my next question for you. What is up with this? Why are we spending picks on offensive linemen and we can't? I'm talking about first round picks, bro. If Trevor Penning get one,
but look. I also wonder about Carmichael's play selection. Like,
oh yes,
like if you realize that your O-line is not as good as they should be, you have to do other measures to counter. Because once those defenders get a taste of, man, I can blow by this guy, you have to do things to slow them up, right? You got to leak out your tight ends right in that soft spot to me to keep them off guard. The delayed screens. You have to do some things like that or run the ball. Like, there's some things that you have to do if you know that your offensive line is not up to par. You can't have these quarterbacks, they're coming from under center. What? No, you're going to get them killed. Like, why not a deeper snap, or maybe like instead of a 3-step drop back, 5-step drop back for the quarterback, so something so that they can have enough time, because they'll never, with this offensive line, be able to take advantage of the wide receivers, because those plays getting to a second level take too long to develop. Right. And these quarterbacks got somebody in their face before these receivers will ever get to where they need to be for him to even lead them on a pass.
I just don't understand. I don't understand the scheme. I think P. Carmichael cooked. I really don't think there's anything there. We can't run the ball, so you can't take time off the clock. We can't throw the ball because nobody has time, and they're not bringing additional help. The thing that really pissed me off Sunday was, forgive me, I can't think of 27's name. 27 was getting picked on literally the whole second half. What'd you say?
The lineman or the corner?
The corner.
Oh, because he was taking Paula Debo's spot, right?
He took a Debo spot, but at no point did somebody say, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna just sit the safety over there. I'm gonna give him some help." Like what y'all are y'all watching the same thing I'm watching?
Well, but do you blame that or the fact that our front line stop pressuring Love? Like
Yeah.
why we're not dialing up a couple of more blitzes or even delayed blitzes or something like that? Because Love is still easy to shake. He's not that experienced, but I thought it came from our frontline pressure. It seemed like it kind of backed off, and I think they missed May too.
Yeah, they miss May. I also feel like I think they should have zoned him more. I mean, he's still a rookie to me. He's still a rookie. He got to be able to beat. He got forget the arm. I mean, forget the legs. You got to be able to beat me. You got to read this defense and you got to beat me. And I really feel like they let him off easy. But I do want to say this: I can't put nothing on the defense. The defense did everything the defense was supposed to do. Offense just literally needed to score 3 points. That's it. You score 3 points, you win.
I agree, but just the last two games, late in the fourth quarter, the defensive schemes changed, like
Yeah.
almost to prevent defense, and we were never up by enough to be prevent anything. Like it really was two players that we could have lost both of those games easily, and we did lose one of them. But you can't let up off the gas late in the fourth, and you're only up by one score.
I said to myself, second half, I said when the second half started, I said the Saints gonna lose this game. I literally like the momentum that they went in the halftime with. It just seemed like it was all down. It was all for nothing. So like, I listen. I guess the silver lining in this is this: Sean Payton got beat by 50.
My Dolphins.
Look, there was no question. There was no question there. But
Hey,
Sean Payton got beat by
I've
50.
never seen such terrible body language from a defense ever. Like these guys were running; they weren't even throwing the ball anymore. They didn't want to tackle them running backs. That was terrible. That was hard.
They let a dude that's 5'7", 170 pounds run. I think he had 18 rushing attempts and he had 129 yards or something like that.
Yeah, it was
Like,
bad. It was bad.
man, I don't even know. All right, let's go on. Let's go to the NBA. Let's go to the NBA. Couple more questions. I'm gonna get you out of here. Dame got traded to the Bucks today.
Woo-woo!
Dame is now with Giannis. That's my pick to go back to the. I'm predicting the Nuggets and the Bucks finals. What do you think?
Are you looking at the Nuggets to repeat?
Man, I can't see.
Woo!
I can't see anybody. I can't see anybody in the West. Well, let me say this. Phoenix today. Today, I feel like Phoenix literally filled out the holes in their roster that scared me. They didn't have enough depth, and now they do.
So who did they pick up? They got Drew?
No, so they got God damn it. They got Yusuf, they got Nurkic from the Blazers. So now they got their center. They traded Ayton and they got hold on one second. I'm about to tell you.
Yeah, I tell you like this, the Bucks are gonna be tough, man. You got Middleton, you got Giannis, you got Lopez at the 5, you're gonna have Dame. And I think they say Connaughton might be the other starter at the 3?
Yep.
So, I mean, they're gonna be a problem. Period.
Man, I listen. You put Giannis and Dame in the pick and roll. What you doing? You now you can't. I love Drew Holiday to death, but now you cannot. It's no doubling Giannis. Double him if you dare. Dame just showed. Dame last season, I think he scored 50 in like 3 quarters or something like that.
He might score 50 and a half if you try to double Giannis.
Man, I don't think people understand what just happened. Which we got to talk about our Pelicans.
So in your scenario of the Nuggets versus the Bucks in the finals, who wins?
If Giannis is gonna be healthy, Giannis, like if he's gonna be 100% healthy,
you gotta go with the Bucks then.
I'm going with the Bucks.
Ooh.
I'm going with the Bucks. Okay. They might get his ring. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think he outplays Murray, and Giannis is gonna neutralize the Joker.
But listen, this is the thing. Giannis is not even gonna be on the Joker. You still got Brook Lopez.
Facts. I don't know. I have to go with the Bucks.
I'm going with the Bucks. No, I'm definitely going with the Bucks. Which leads me to my Pelicans.
Our Pelicans.
Our Pelicans. Our Pelicans. What why we can't have nice things, man?
Maybe we get nice things this year. Let me tell you like this. I think folks, I'm gonna start with CJ.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that people realize how hurt he was for that last quarter of the year, maybe a little longer than that, with that shoulder and that hand situation. But I think if he can come back healthy, like, I really think he gives us some stability. And of course, all eyes are on Zion. I think I don't know what to think. I would love to see him do his thing, man. Like, and I really believe that those injuries that he had were not season ending. I just kind of felt like they were keeping him out for some reason, which I don't know. I don't really understand. Like, last year and the year before, he did the same thing when he felt like he should have been on the court, and they were telling him he wasn't supposed to be on the court. He did these dunk displays in front of all the media, I guess, to, without saying it, say it, that I am ready to play. But I don't know. I've just never seen an athlete as demonized and villainized as Zion for such a good kid, for a couple of injuries. Like, do people not remember that Joel Embiid didn't play for his first 3 years? He played 33 games in 3 years.
Yeah.
And he was the MVP this year.
Like,
you got to think about it. Last year was really Zion's senior year in college.
This is true. All right, so let me ask you this. And I agree, but I don't agree. Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because at some point, I think he has to start taking responsibility for certain things. I'm not gonna say what those certain things are.
What are those certain things?
Listen, man. Go ahead.
I don't think he's like, so I'm like 6'3", about 260, right? And they say he's 300 pounds, but he's a big boy. I don't think that his 300 is like a fat 300.
I agree.
I don't even know if he's that big. I just think like the media has just villainized him, especially the public. I think he will be fine. I think he'll be fine.
I think he'll be fine also. But here's my thing. Here's my question to you. We going into year 5 of Brandon, Zion, right? You've only seen, I think, 93 games together, if I'm not mistaken, in 5 years. 93 games in 5 years. I think Brandon, CJ, and Zion have played 12 games together. At what point are you like, nah, we gotta pull a plug on this?
I don't know. I think this might be the year. I think they're gonna have to see some 60-70% of the games played by Zion for them not to have some sort of buyer's remorse on the whole thing.
Do you think that happens though? Is he gonna give you 67 games? What's the over under on 67 games played?
You know what? He got child support to pay now, so I'm gonna go over 66 games.
I agree. Listen,
I think maybe the thing about it is too, like, this is an odd angle, but like, I think maybe this might be something that makes him man up per se. Like, man situations, I don't think he can be that shy boy anymore. Like, it's time to man up. Like, and I think he's also feeling that pressure of the world crashing down around him because of all the success that people feel like we should have had with this marquee player that we haven't gotten yet. So I think this is the year that you see him man up and do what he needs to do. A hamstring is not a bad injury, right?
Yeah, and then that wasn't his fault.
Right. This is a contact sport. Like, think about it. Which players have not had knee injuries? We're not built as humans to jump up and down like that. The only player that I can recall in modern history that survived a long career jumping the way he jumped was Vince Carter. Like, everybody else was done after a couple of years and had to change their game to more jumpers than slams. Ja Morant had knee issues last year. So, we can't blame these injuries on the players. It is what it is. It happens. Brandon went out with what? A toe injury?
A toe, yes.
From hitting somebody's heel? So it happens. But I do think, I think between the public and the management, all the pressure is on this year on those three guys. But especially
So speaking of BI is up for extension, I think next summer. Well, I mean, they were trying to get it done this summer, but like next summer, right? Not only BI, but Trey Murphy also. Shout out to Trey. Get well soon. Hate to hear that injury. Let's say this thing doesn't work this year. Who are you picking? Are you rolling with Zion, who hasn't played more than, I don't know, I think it was 57 or 57 games in the season? Or are you a little Brandon who for a doubt has taken you to a play-in playoff situation?
Like, what are you saying? Are we getting rid of one?
If you had to pick one, which one are you picking?
Out of them three?
Out of Brandon, no. Out of Brandon and Zion.
Who am I keeping?
Yes.
I don't know. I want both of them.
Nah, we gotta make a pivot. If this thing does not work after this season, you gotta make a pivot. You gotta pick one. This is what we ask the hard-hitting questions. This is the only show where you get this type of.
I would have to see what happens this year before I can make that decision. I can't even call it because, if I don't see what I need to see from Zion, then I gotta use him for his value to get some other pieces. I don't know, and it's the same with Brandon. He's shown me a lot. I know A. Levy ain't sold on him at all, but I like Brandon's game, and I think that mid-range jumper is important, in the league. You know what I'm saying? It's consistency from him. Right. I would be more concerned about our center game. I think that's something that we really need to concentrate on. Like, we need a more athletic center, I think, for us to really get to where we need to go.
So I'm Jonas Valanciunas' defense attorney. That's my guy. I feel like we use him wrong, and then we blame him for everything. So
I don't think the coaching staff has a lot of. I don't know. He's never in at the end of the game, and we're reluctant for long periods of time to get him the ball. It looks like so. I don't know.
Now the funny thing about that is, right, you watch FIBA basketball, he literally bullied us. He bullied America. He bullied everybody in the tournament, to be honest. And he does. I was talking to Schmidt Dewar the other day. He told me an incredible stat. Jonas has played FIBA every year since he's been in the NBA. He's never missed a FIBA. So when people are always talking about get rid of Jonas, I'm like, you want to get rid of the dude who's least likely to get hurt? He don't miss games. But I digress because I am his personal defense attorney, and I don't, Let me ask you this.
I think that position has morphed so much in today's NBA, which is different from international basketball. Right. And I think it's just become the age of the more athletic bigs that could pop out. I mean, nobody plays defense anymore. So
no, nobody does. That's why defense don't even matter. Man, what's next for you? What do you do? You've done everything radio wise. Like, what do you do next?
You know, I'm just waiting on God's signal to let me know what's next. I don't really. I just kind of roll with the punches to see what's next. I still like to do a lot of investing. Investing is an important thing for me. More community work. I think I'm going to bring my summer program for the youth back this summer. I hadn't done it once the pandemic hit. I did my summer program for youth for 20 years, so I think I'll bring it back and do some more with it. Ironically, I like farming, and I think agriculture is going to be a very important thing for us. I have this agricultural bug that I wanna itch at some point soon, and maybe even some things with policy and city government, like to kind of figure out ways that we can improve some things that are happening in our city. Because although there's a lot of finger pointing that goes on every day in the news with local government and community based pieces, I think it's time for more doing and less talking. And I think I can kind of bridge the gap on a lot of those because everybody loves Wild Wayne. So
I mean,
why not?
That's a TV show, by the way. That's a TV show. Listen, shout out to, I cannot think of whose farm did you go to? That's my partner.
Wait, I went to a bunch of them.
Old Mac Ronald.
Yeah, it's my dog, Ron G.
Ron G. Listen, I don't know. Listen, when it comes to ribbing people, I've never heard a better ribber in my. Ron G will tear your ass up. I went to dinner with Ron G.
A lot of people don't realize Ron used to be on Q93 for a while.
I remember.
He did a radio show. So I do frequently go out to the Old McRonald Farms. Also, Lake Tilly Acres, my man Rome. He's got some good stuff going. He does some chicken raising and some plant growing and all of that stuff. But, once the pandemic hit, I figured like it was time to start doing that. It was just kind of, once again, me being guided with my steps. But I really think we're going to have some issues with food production, and I think I'd rather grow my own. So, and use mine for my family and share my abundance.
I definitely want to do the same thing. I'm trying to get into that. I'm gonna have to pick your brain. Don't worry about it. I'll get at you. I want to talk about this. I hit Twitter. Twitter told me they had questions.
Okay.
This is all I have, and I'm gonna let you get out of here. I took way more time than I thought I was gonna do. All right. Shout out to Chrissy. She want to know who wrote the 9 o'clock props jingle.
So me and Mike Fox, because when we first started doing the 9 o'clock props, it was, hey, you, what's your name? You're on the radio with Mike Fox and Wild Wayne. That was how it first started. And we had a beat from Manny Fresh that he did for us. That was our first beat. So we wrote it together, and I think we used to do 4 rappers at first, but it was just too hard to keep 4 rappers on the line, and it was a little bit too long. And later we went to kind of the 2 rappers head to head or something like that.
Okay. Shout out to Chrissy for the question. Chris Connor, he wants to know what made you stick with your intro on each show. Was there any other lines you tried?
Like the intros that started my show off?
Yeah.
So people would just submit them, and if they were dope, I would roll with them. So probably my 2 most popular ones ever, I think, were, this is crazy. Wild Wayne is Bout It by Master P. So P could never pronounce my name right. So it was always Rock Wayne. He bout it. And he did a whole intro for my show. The track was a track from Mr. Servon that KLC gave to P to do the intro. And after it got so popular of me playing it, people started requesting the intro. And then P said, well, I'm going to make a real song out of this intro, which became I'm Bout It.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
And then the other one was I used to manage a group, two groups, Black Ice and
Black.
Diamonds, and they did if you don't know,
Um,
it's your boy Wild Wayne. That was a huge intro. People love that one too. That was
I remember that.
my two biggest intros and that got backstories. And one of the members ended up becoming my wife later on.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Anywho,
Shout out to Brandy, man.
yeah, Alizé.
Yeah, that's my dog.
Uh-huh.
All right. Let's see what else we got. Jono wants to know how you see the future of radio going. We kind of talked about this, but if you want to,
I think radio still will always have a place, even though there's many competitive apps and platforms that are pushing radio. But I think like what's gonna have to happen if radio really, really wants to survive, and this is bigger than just me, obviously, but I think that they have to groom some more talent to be the next wave of great radio host. And I also believe that we need to still embrace local and regional music a bit more than we have, especially since it's not like the big record labels or distribution companies don't really even exist anymore. And a lot of the times they were the people that controlled what was happening because there was so much money involved and so many big artists with all these big deals. I think if you can figure out how to get more local and regional music back onto playlists, I think it'll bring more people back to listening to radio more. And like I said, you have to develop more young talent, like as the next wave of great hosts. Like it's kind of hard here because, well, not here, but across the country because radio has downsized. You know what I'm saying?
right.
There's not nearly as many talent as there was before, but I do think it can remain. And the one last piece that I think you have to do is keep more local elements involved in terms of whether it be events or local news or those things that people can easily gravitate and relate to.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm with that. Let's see. The media man himself, what's the wildest interview you've ever been a part of?
Maybe the wildest one was there was a time when Manny Fresh and Baby were beefing pretty badly. Like, I think that's when Manny was trying to get his money, right? And I had I had Manny Fresh on, and we were talking about some stuff or whatever, and what went down. And Baby calls like the hotline and starts to threaten Manny. It was crazy. There's a video. The video is on YouTube. The video is on YouTube. It was just crazy. Like that was a really crazy one. And I think another one is like I had the whole Magnolia up here. So I had like Mr. Marcello. I had Soulja Slim. I think maybe I had like BG up. 6 Shot maybe.
Gee whiz.
But it was just a dope interview. And I think at that time, you remember that dude? There was a dude from the Diddy show that he was calling himself Chopper too.
Yes.
Which is ironic because we already had a Chopper in the city, and if he would have like really been from here, would have known that.
Right.
And that was really an interesting one because there was just a lot that went on. And then maybe the other one, which wasn't an interview, but when I announced the death of Soulja Slim, that has rang true with so many because it was Thanksgiving. I think it was the night before Thanksgiving, and I did the whole spill on it because I had the information before it hit the news. So it wasn't necessarily an interview, but it was a very important moment in radio in New Orleans for a lot of people.
I shed tears. I shed tears about that.
And my voice cracked the whole time I was saying it because I had done a lot of stuff with back to the Magnolia Slim days when he was with Hype Enough Records and stuff long before all of the other stuff. So
I to give some backstory on that, that was actually going to be my first Soulja Slim concert. I was going to that show. I'd never seen him in person before. I would see him on the Parkway all the time, but actually like performing, like I never saw him perform before. But I was going to that show that day, and my sister called me. She told me that, man, I was just toe up, man.
Yeah.
What year was this Manny Fresh Baby? What year was that? You remember?
If you just Google it, like Google Wild Wayne, go on YouTube Wild Wayne and Manny Fresh, it'll pop up. It's crazy.
I'm definitely gonna find that.
We have the baby parts on there because it was X-rated, but it was a contentious interview. That was crazy.
I'm sure.
I didn't do this interview, but I was up here when it happened, and it was probably the funniest one at this radio station to me was DMX. He was interviewing with A.D. Berry, and in the middle of it, he had been with Slim or whomever running around in the streets before he came, hanging out in the project and all of this stuff. And in the middle of the interview, he throws up. He just vomited because he was drinking 40s all day before he came to the station to interview with A.D. Berry. He drew crosses on the walls of the radio. It was crazy. That dude was nuts.
He was with Soulja Slim?
No, this was DMX.
Oh, okay. I thought you said he was with Slim.
Well, probably during that day they all hung or whatever, and he got the tour of all of the projects, and he was drinking 40s and all kinds of stuff. And like I said, I was here when it happened, but it wasn't my interview.
That's
but it was
crazy, man. Rest in peace, Slim. Rest in peace, DMX. Last question I got for you. Who had the best verse, or do you remember the best verse you heard on 9 O'Clock Props?
Ooh, there were a lot of them. I would probably say my best rappers versus the best verse. So, like, a lot of folks don't know, like, one of my first artists on when me and Mike Fox were doing it was Big Ramp. That was one of our first artists that ever got on the 9 O'Clock Props. Some of the women that really shined, they had a girl named Daisy that used to be on all the time. China was another girl, and they had a girl from the Fisher Project called Mahogany, who used to. Some of the other memorable ones, they used to have a dude called Pork Chop. They used to be on all the time. Murder Fiend. Who else used to be on there? They had a rapper named Lil D. So he was a young white kid, but he used to win all the time. But he was cold with it. And now he just got signed by, I think, T-Pain.
Wow.
I think he just got signed by T-Pain.
He's from the West Bank? He's from the West Bank?
Yeah, D.
I know you're talking about, yeah.
And also, one of my more popular rappers was Lil Darwin, who would later become Chopper. Lil Darwin was a battle rapper. He battled everybody. He was never a bounce artist. He decided to do bounce just to get in with Take 4. But he was one of probably my most popular 9 O'Clock Props rapper as Lil Darwin. So
that's crazy, man. Hey, let me ask you, before I let you go, have you ever rapped on 9 O'Clock Props? Have I missed that?
I never rapped on it, but I did have me and Mike Fox released a rap song on Cash Money. It was called All Right, Here We Go. All right, here we go. All right. And I did have a verse on that. I don't remember that's up on YouTube too. We donated all the proceeds to charity that we made from it. So it was me and Mike Fox with this All Right, Here We Go song. And I think on the B side was like Miss T and UNLV and them.
That's dope. That's dope.
I released one song on Cash Money.
That's crazy. Wild Wayne, International Man of Mystery. Listen, bro, like before I let you get out of here, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you sitting down, chopping it up with me. Like this is love. Like I'm never going this is like a surreal moment. Like you know what I'm saying? I'm just honored to be able to talk to you.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity and being able to get all of them stories out there. I've talked to a number of people, and I'm really thinking about trying to put together a memoir or a book about some of these crazy stories and experiences and the changes and the various things that I've been a part of. Because like it's been some monumental stuff, not just the 9 o'clock props, but Fat and all of that. My industry influenced music conferences, which I did for many years, that helped so many artists. Real Talk was my talk show that did giant things. My podcast, Wild Wayne Unchained, which really is good material about culture, cuisine, and lifestyle in New Orleans. My nonprofit with the kids, the Wild Wayne Summer Experience. So I just have done a lot of stuff. I've been afforded some great opportunities, and I do want to document it at some point in written form because we do need to control the narrative.
We do. We for sure. And listen, if you need help with any of that,
Okay.
I'm down for that. And I'm going to continue to spread the gospel of Wild Wayne every time I do a show. Because again, you my intro.
Speak on it, baby. Speak on it, Lito.
That's all I got, man. It's me, Lito. It's Wayne. We out of here.
Yeah.